At this point, there is actually not that much more to say, Neil Channing, but the floor is yours to react on what you just heard earlier in the week, Anna Sheen's measured statement there to Nick Lightfoot.
Well, first of all, it's not really up to me to say whether I think he's guilty or innocent. It doesn't make any difference what I think. He says he's innocent. I've got no reason to disbelieve him. Until we see the result of the B sample, he's not, if the B sample comes back and it's negative, then
the matter is closed.
Yeah. So, that could happen. It's unlikely, I think, but it could happen. The other thing is, it must be terrible that it was July, this race in Deauville. It's 3 months now. It took a month to get the A sample. He's not going to get the result of the B sample till the end of this week, I think. It seems like, I said it to my missus, she said these French people, they do it in their own sweet, she's French.
She's French.
She said they do it in their own sweet time, that's how we do things over there. But, that seems a bit bad, really. The hair sample, I can understand why he's done that, because he wants to establish that, he's totally innocent, but it's not going to cut any ice. No. We have an established precedent here, with Robbie Downey and obviously Rab Havlin had the same situation. And for that reason, and given what happened to those guys, he's just going to get 6 months, isn't he? Because the B sample, assuming the B sample comes back positive, which it seems unlikely that it won't, given that the A sample has, and it's the same sample basically. They'll go to the disciplinary, and the BHA, have to go along with whatever the other jurisdiction says, unless they have a really good reason not to, which they don't.
The only way the BHA will not reciprocate France Gallo's decision, if the decision is to give him a ban, is if they find France Gallo's procedures to have flouted their own regulations,
Absolutely.
Which they haven't.
So the BHA, their hands are tied, so he can appeal, assuming he gets a 6-month ban. But the ban will have already started.
Yeah.
No, the appeal will delay
the ban. He may not want to delay the ban.
He may not want to delay it because having a ban in the winter is probably better than having a ban in the spring. So I guess he's just going to take the 6 months eventually and try and prove his innocence by the hair sampling and whatever. And actually, I think the people around him, he's got, like he said, he's got a lot of good people around him. They all believe he's innocent. At the end of the day, looking back at Rab Havlin or whatever, the way that John Gosden spoke out about him, I don't think it's harmed his career long term. People generally in racing feel like he was innocent. It's just a cross-contamination, the fact that France is a much smaller threshold.
Yeah, important to deal with facts, but also important to deal with what we might learn, which is, again, the disparity in the threshold. 50 nanograms per millilitre of urine in France, 150 nanograms per millilitre of urine in England and Ireland. So is there a case for the authorities to get together again and say, we either adopt the WADA standard doping procedures that you've got in France, or France Gallo move towards an Anglo-Irish mechanism which accounts for some form of trace contamination?
And again, it goes back to what we were talking about before, you were talking with Aidan O'Brien. America may be a whole different world, but it seems that France and Ireland and the UK could come together somehow and have a kind of standardised procedure because, that's been the problem in all of these cases, really.
OK, that is a story, obviously, which we will continue to monitor through the next few weeks. The Racing League, third time lucky for the Racing League, formerly known as Championship Horse Racing, has got its fixtures from the BHA. They've kept their money pot, so that's safe. That will be a big help to them this year, there's no doubt about that. And they'll have a string of televised fixtures on Thursday nights on Sky Sports. They're off and running.
Yeah, it seems like you have to be a bit of a meanie to be negative about this, don't you? I mean, I sort of understand that racing is full of people that don't like change, and I get it that it's not really a team sport, that at the end of the day it is quite individualistic. But a company's coming in, pumping a whole bunch of money into, not even at the top tier, the tier that probably needs it more than any. I suppose they all need it more than any, they all say that. And we're going to have a load of competitive handicaps, live on TV from some of the smaller courses who are probably suffering really badly at the moment. What's not to like? Shergar Cup, I don't know, people are still so sniffy about it, aren't they? Like, you get people saying, oh, yeah, I went to the first one, I've never been since, and they're so proud to say it. Lots of people like it. It's, you don't have to like every single element of racing that happens. Racing has lots of different kinds of races. Some people don't like the cadre or something because it's a really long race that goes on forever. Some people prefer sprinters. Some people say, well, it's so busy these days, I only look at 2-year-olds. It's just another thing that you have an opportunity to enjoy if you want to. And if you don't, well, it's not the end of the world, is it? You've got plenty of it. It's not like there's a shortage of racing. No, I think it's a good thing. Why not?
You're looking forward to it. Will you try and get a team together?
No, I won't be getting a team together. I mean, the only thing I wish is that all the races had 16 runners instead of 12. It'd be so much better for the each way.
That, of course, is if you can get on each way. Do let me know if you still can. Job losses. This is it's a very serious story pertaining to the Jockey Club's workforce. That's 70 job losses from Jockey Club.
It's about 10%
just over 10% of their workforce, and the new structure of the company is regional, but only east-west. So 4 regions become 2, and obviously with that, therefore, there are jobs at all levels being cut out.
I mean, obviously it's terrible for those people that have lost their job. I have every sympathy for them, and I hope they can find something else soon. I mean, the last few weeks on the show, generally the topic of funding for racing and, growing the pie or how we divide the pie and whatever just keeps coming up. You can't help but feel, and this is, the reasons for this are long established and hard to break. But at the end of the day, when you look at other sports, they don't have 20 different bodies all arguing with each other. They tend to just have one thing that does the negotiations. We have, the trainers, the jockeys, the racecourses, the media, the bookmakers, and, the BHA, the Jockey Club. If you try to explain to somebody who comes into the sport, well, who runs racing? That's not a one-sentence answer, is it? It's like, well, there's dozens of different people that all spend all day arguing with each other, and that's why, in a lot of ways, that's why it's hard for the sport to kind of improve. I mean, you could say in a world where they're desperately short of money and I don't want anyone to lose their job, of course, but streamlining and making the thing, a smaller, less bureaucratic administration in the long term is a good thing. It's not a good thing for those people that lost their job this week, obviously.
You wanted to talk about William Hill. This is quite a big story in the betting landscape. It looks as though they're going to get taken over, and
they definitely are.
Yeah, they are going to get taken over, but it's a question of it looks as though the takeover is going to be a big American casino giant.
Yeah, so Caesars International did a deal with William Hill, I think about 2 years ago. William Hill were going to do kind of the marketing of the sports betting within their casinos, and obviously sports betting is opening up in the States rather than just being a few states.
Hills have a significant presence in the States at Monmouth Park and elsewhere.
Yeah, they own lots of small casinos. Actually, they've done I could talk a long time about what they've done in the States, but basically they're already in bed together. Caesars are paying lots of money to William Hill on an ongoing basis for that deal. It made sense for them, even though Caesars are kind of bankrupt. That's ridiculous, really. To spend $2.9 billion on buying William Hill. What does that mean for the UK William Hill, and what does that mean for racing is probably where we come into it. What it does mean is that, ironically, the bit of the business that's useless and never made any money is the bit that they wanted. The bit that actually makes some money, the betting shops, is kind of the best bit. They didn't want at all. So what will probably happen is that a whole bunch of people will be swimming around. That will definitely happen, to buy the website They've got a couple of, I think, land-based casinos in Europe, and the betting shops. They got 1,400 betting shops. I think since the FOBT change, we're down to about 6,000 betting shops in the UK. It might be slightly under that now.
It was not as big a cut as we anticipated.
Well, it wasn't. But then, of course, there's always cuts in betting shops now, just because of the nature of shopping is changing. People buy online more than they used to, and of course, COVID. You know, there's been a whole wave of new shop closures due to COVID. So it has actually turned out to be slightly worse than we expected. I've gone over the time, but I think this is kind of important. So I think there could be a management buyout as possible of the website. That's definitely possible. But they may decide to just do the website side and get rid of the betting shops. There could be somebody that doesn't have betting shops come in, like 888 or Kindred, you know, Unibet.
Yeah.
They could come in and possibly buy the thing for the website, and that would keep the William Hill brand, which is, you know, has been going since, I think, 1936. Yeah. I don't think the William Hill brand will disappear, but I think what's quite likely is that the betting shops end up with Betfred. Him and his brother bought 6% of William Hill immediately before they announced COVID. I think at about £3 a share. They went down to 30p when COVID came out. They're up fortunes now. I think they made 175 million on that purchase. So they're going to end up with the betting shops. I think Betfred currently have 1,500 betting shops. They won't be able to get them all, so they'll have to sell some, and maybe some will close, and that has a knock-on effect to racing because the media rights, it's per shop.
Per shop, exactly.
Betfred have been keen in the past, I think, to sell to independents, which, if that worked, you get the media rights are more for independent shops than they are for big chain shops. So I know I've gone over.
You're eating into Andrea Razzani.
Sorry about that. I'll shut up. But that, you know, it has an implication. I also was thinking about
shut up now, actually.
William Hiller's sponsorship. They had a big sponsorship at Redcar yesterday.
Yes,
I
the
can't think of literally
trophy.
any other race that they sponsor these days. I was racking my brains.
There was a big 2-day card at York in August.
There was. You're right.
I think
you're
almost
right.
every race.
But I think, you know, that's probably a small...
Big card at Ripon
that's probably
earlier in the year.
The
Grayson Wilfred, one of the oldest sponsors.
They probably sponsor more races than Betfred do, William Hill. So that's probably a bit of a negative knock-on.
OK, let's talk about VIPs. I'm sure you are a VIP with every bookmaker.
I have actually been a VIP.
The VIP scheme is gone. It is no more because it is a conduit to irresponsible gambling.
Yeah.
So say the government.
Well, bookmakers generally, I mean, you know, all businesses reward their best customers. I mean, there's no shock. You know, whatever, you know, I'm sure if you're a horse feed manufacturer, you wine and dine trainers quite often.
Well, not at the moment. You know.
But I mean, you know,
there's going to be many dinners at Ballydoyle with horse feed manufacturers.
They might need a few, but you know, this shouldn't be a shock to people. Even, you know, like your Nectar card in the supermarket or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I think there has to be a world where bookmakers are allowed to reward customers to some extent. And it's quite difficult. You know, I've worked in bookmakers 20 years ago when I worked in spread betting, and we used to frequently ring up customers and say, would you like to come to a football match? We've got a box or whatever. And mostly they didn't want to come because they didn't want the missus to know that they were being invited by the bookmaker. Getting them to come racing on a Saturday was really difficult. So, you know, that's the thing that bookmakers have struggled with. But they're fighting over these kind of high net worth individuals that are their bigger customers. Now, of course, some of those then turn out to have got their money because they're an addictive gambler and they embezzled it from work or whatever. You know, those kind of stories come up quite regularly. I don't think they're a large percentage of the VIP customers. They're quite a small percentage. But of course, the bookmakers don't want that to happen particularly, they would argue, because it's not good. It's not a good look. But we are moving into a world where that kind of thing is just not acceptable anymore. You know, we have the situation of Tom Watson now going to work with Flutter.
Yeah, you can see what they're up to there.
Yeah, I think the bookmakers are definitely feeling like they've left it too long to get their own house in order, and they've finally decided we need to sort that out.
What are they coming up against here in terms of government policy and policy makers as we roll into the next roll into the next talking point, which is that it was announced today, and there's a piece in the Sunday Times about this, that 16 to 18-year-olds or 16 and 17-year-olds will no longer be able to play the National Lottery.
I mean,
and Dominic Cummings is at the absolute forefront of formulating this policy. Number 10 doesn't like gambling very much, does it, at the moment?
Well, I saw Boris Johnson being asked about his opinion on gambling. I can't remember where it was, but I just saw that a couple of weeks ago, and he said he wasn't really in favour of young people getting heavily involved in gambling or something like that.
No one's in favour of young people getting addicted to gambling, are they?
Of course. I mean, nobody that works in the bookmaking industry or at the National Lottery wants to see that. And I'm sure the National Lottery have been very careful about, you know, their marketing to under 16s. But it did seem always a very weird anomaly that, you know, betting shops are open to people 18 and over, and the National Lottery is, and you know, online betting and much more. And the National Lottery is OK for 16 to 18.
You can get married at 16, can't you?
Yeah, you can join the army at 16. You can have sex at 16. There's lots of things you can do.
Can you still smoke at 16? No, I don't.
You can.
You used to be able to. Anyway.
No, I think it's 18.
Right, fine, but it's
a bad idea whether it's 16 or 18. You did a good thing coming off those. But no, I think generally speaking, there is a move in government. Ironically, because obviously, you know, the Conservatives are generally thought to be kind of laissez-faire and it's all about personal choice and whatever. But actually, I think there is a move within government. And on the Labour benches, you know, I think there are quite a few Labour backbench MPs, some of whom...
They like legislation, this government, don't they? COVID notwithstanding.
Yes.
Who was it who said that Matt Hancock and Michael Gove didn't see... There wasn't a rule that they didn't like?
Well, yeah. They're just the problem with the problem with this government and rules is they can pass legislation, they never remember their own rules. But I think generally we're heading that way. And I think the bookmakers have seen that, and they've thought if they can get their own house in order first, that they might head off legislation to the pass.
You're out. That's it.
Fine.
Enough Channing.
Get rid of me.
That's
no
it.
problem.
Channing's out.